Minister for a month and a half. This has been one of the shortest lived premierships ever in British history, and we've just heard the Prime Minister come out and say she accepts she cannot deliver the vision that she sold to her party and to the country a few weeks ago. This is a really remarkable moment. The resignation of Prime Ministers is always a big deal, but I've never seen anything like this. And let's be clear what's happened. Yesterday, Liz Truss told us all she was a fighter, that she was going to try and go on. What's happened over the past 24 hours is the level of chaos in government, the level of chaos in Parliament and the Conservative Party has led to a point where Liz Truss knows that she can't continue. And what will happen now is the quickest turnover of power that we've seen in quite some time. The Prime Minister has resigned as Tory leader. That's done. Over the next week, there will be a leadership election among Conservative MPs. This is a lightning speed change. The question now is whether the Conservative Party can coalesce around another leader, whether there's anybody that can unite the party. The answer at the moment is no. And whether the party can avoid a general election, because in a week's time, by the end of October, we are going to have our third Prime Minister of the year. Remember, 11 days today, the Chancellor is supposed to set out his plan to fill the fiscal black hole. By that time, Ben, there will be a new Prime Minister. This is an unprecedented situation, an unprecedentedly short tenure for a Prime Minister, and an unprecedented crisis in British politics.
And just to be clear, Nick, this leadership election will only be Tory MPs because, of course, the summer election that Liz Truss won was partly MPs, but then it was for Conservative Party members around the country who ultimately elected her as leader. This will be short and sharp and MPs only. So who do you see as the key candidates? Obviously, Rishi Sunak, one assumes, would be throwing his hat back into the ring.
Yeah, look, I mean, you're absolutely right. It's a big question about who is going to take over. I mean, some early names in the frame, I can tell you, Ben. Rishi Sunak, who lost the last leadership election. I think it'll be tough for him. He's quite a divisive figure in the party. There is Penny Mordaunt, who also stood for the leadership, seen by some as too inexperienced to take on the job at a time of such crisis. The Defence Secretary, Ben Wallace, he's somebody who has suggested he doesn't want the job. I wonder if that might change now, given the level of crisis. Jeremy Hunt, the Chancellor, somebody who's managed to steady the ship when it comes to the economy, a bit anyway. Maybe he's in the frame, although speaking to Tory MPs this morning, some fear that removing the Chancellor, as well as the Prime Minister, even if it was to put the Chancellor into number 10, would cause even more crisis. I mean, the truth is, Ben, when I came into work this morning, we knew how bad the situation was for Liz Truss. We weren't sure we were going to end up here. There were some Conservative MPs saying she probably has a few days, she maybe has until the end of the month. Well, the level of crisis is such, the level of opposition to the Prime Minister within her own party is such, she's been delivered that message by the 1922 committee of backbenchers that it was game over. And now British politics is going to have to pick up the pieces of this remarkably short tenure in Downing Street. I don't know how that is going to pan out. To be honest, so much has caught us by surprise over the past week because it's been so unprecedented. This incredibly short tenure, the humiliation of Liz Truss's programme for government has left this office, number 10, in a very, very strange place this afternoon.
Nick, thank you so much for your analysis. Nick Eardley there, our chief political correspondent, charting what has been a moment of political history.